new people have to do with that. There's not enough space. They can just sit there and just and some of the old ones. There's not enough space. The magistrate is going to chase us out. Dit toch niet. Ik heb wel een vrouw, man. Oké, laten we maar staan.
He gave it back to me. He says we will hand it in. So it's fine. Thank you. The numbers of my girlfriend. You were so calm, unlike the day you saw me on TV like this. How are you?
wordt uitgegaan. People must go out.
Okay, right.
Did you talk to everybody?
Hello? Please write your names for me. Your names for me. Please write your names for me for the system.
Okay. Oh, the names of all the attorneys?
Yours. Only
Mine.
yours.
I'm the least important here. Talk to them. They get the money. You'll be surprised. Let me tell you. Ja, dat gaat goed. Wie van jullie voor Ollie? Hoe is voor Ollie? Lang geen.
Meaning the full names.
Ja.
Not initial. Name and surname. Name and surname. Name and surname. Full names.
Why?
It's for the system.
And cell phone number.
What? Wat? Normal court.
I've been drained 106 days before I died.
Oh, that's strange idea. Woo!
That's right.
He's a good friend of mine. We thought what is it?
When you say
But he told me what's going on. Rewriting the law.
Because we have a TV as well, isn't
It sounds to me flogging the head off. Wasting the state diesel. You're gonna lose this thing.
Is it? Yes. See when it touches the flags. When it touches the flags. I don't have a bundle. I don't have a bundle. What are you waiting for? That's not, you know, for us. For the woman it runs for us.
Yeah.
Do you have a card? Oh no. I think maybe it will next year.
Yeah. One thing about baby is no, man.
Because that first one, so those are the things that are very
Good.
I know this.
Good. And it's probably there's one fella that it's a boy now.
We have a double.
All right, Sarele.
I'm not sure whether it's the size of the court or there's too many of us. I'm worried about social distancing. At the back there's no social distancing. I would request the court officials, if possible, please, let's also keep social distancing. We only keep to those who have to be here, if possible. Thank you, sir.
As it pleases the court, your worship, case 20/520 of 20, State versus Mulcahy and 15 others. Firstly, your worship, there is an adding of accused, that is accused 14, 15 and 16 as indicated on the charge sheet. And then there is the issue of accused number 1 who is not present. His attorney or legal representative will address your worship on that issue. And then, as I said, it is the first appearance for or of accused 14, 15 and 16. There is the issue pertaining to bail. Just before we continue, I just wish to hand in the new indictment so that the court knows what the charges against all the accused are.
Thank you.
That is the final document for purposes of trial in the High Court. I shall address the court a bit later on pertaining to the transfer to the High Court.
Thank you. I see there's 3 people in the dock. Are these the newly added?
They are accused 14, 15 and 16. The rest of the accused are in court, they're just sitting apart.
You said accused number 1 is not here. Who's the legal representative for accused number 1?
Your worship, my name is Hannes Packer. I appear on behalf of accused number 1. Accused number 1 was operated on the 16th of February, and I've provided the prosecuting authority with a medical certificate.
Your worship, sorry for interrupting. I put the appearances document right at the end, as it pleases the court.
Operated on?
On 16th February 2021. I have provided the prosecuting authority with a copy of the medical certificate, and with your permission I would also then hand up a copy to the court. Warrant to be issued. Yeah, I'll go.
Yes.
Your worship, the arrangement that we've made with the prosecuting authorities that a warrant be issued and then be held over until the next appearance on the 11th of August. It's my instructions that the accused will not be able to appear for quite some time. He was, as you can see from the medical note, that he was operated on the 16th of February.
The challenge I have is that the medical note doesn't tell me that. It just tells me that he is not fit from the 11th until the 15th of February.
In the second line, your worship, it says medical operation 16 February 2021, and in the sick leave period from the 15th of February. It does not specify the illness, and as I understand, it's no longer necessary for the medical practitioner.
So he's still hospitalized? He's still hospitalized?
I confirm, your worship.
Your worship, from the side of the state, we have no objection against the handing in thereof, and the state accepts the contents of that document, as it pleases.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I'll deal with the matter once I'm postponing the matter.
As it pleases the board.
Thank you. Are we starting with the bail obligations? What is the position?
Indeed, Your Worship.
Thank you. Ms. Nozipo Pelina Mudikwe. Are you Ms. Nozipo Pelina Mudikwe? Please swap positions. The way you are seated, but now you just changed direction. You're still in the middle, sir? You're still in the middle. She is now added as accused number 14.
That is correct, Your Worship.
Mr. Lube? Advocate Lube? Yes, we're starting with the bail obligation of the client.
Bishop, confirm my appearance on behalf of the accused 14.
The bail obligation, you are aware that the applicant bears the onus of proving on the balance of probabilities that the interest of justice permits this. And for the record, the defense for all three applicants submitted the affidavits in chambers for me to peruse in order for us not to read same into the record to save time. Ms. Mudikwe, do you confirm that you were informed of that the affidavit doesn't have to be read into the record today? What language do you speak, ma'am? Please stand up. What language do you speak?
Excuse me?
What language do you speak?
I speak, can you communicate in English?
In English, because I can't hear you. Do you confirm that it's not necessary, due to time and the regulations regarding COVID-19, for your affidavit to be read into the record?
I confirm, sir.
Thank you. Do you submit the affidavit, Mr. Lupe?
Yes, Your Worship.
The affidavit by applicant number 1, who is accused number 14, is hereby admitted. The number of the exhibit itself will be later confirmed, as the record is so thin the court has to go through it. But same has been admitted.
As please.
Any further evidence, sir?
No, Your Worship.
I do not see your client's income unless I'm missing something on the affidavit.
Your Worship, that aspect can be addressed if necessary.
It is necessary because I have to determine which amount of bail to be set.
Your Worship, as it pleases, in the affidavit it is addressed that as per the informal agreement with the state, the bail of 50,000 will be accepted.
That's for me to decide.
As it pleases.
I need to know the...
May I leave that evidence to that extent?
Please.
As it pleases.
Just the income.
Your income, what do you presently earn? Can you please confirm that to the court? Your monthly salary.
Monthly salary is 90,000.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bishop. Any further evidence?
Bishop, unless there's anything specific that the court would like me to lead evidence on, that is the evidence.
Thank you, sir.
As please.
Case for applicant number 1, accused number 14. Advocate Khatle, accused number 15, the second applicant in this application. The same applies with regard to the affidavit, is that correct?
Indeed so, Your Worship.
And the court indeed has perused the affidavit. I just want you to confirm from your client. Mr. Makepe, please stand up, sir. Together with your legal representative and the prosecution, there was an agreement reached that due to COVID-19 regulations and to save time, your affidavit doesn't have to be read into the record.
I
Thank you, sir. I take it's up to me to decide what amount of bail to set. There's no suggestion from your side.
Your Worship, we discussed the matter with the state. There's X amount that has been arranged, but in the amount of 50,000. But if that amount is lower, that will be very much appreciated on behalf of the second applicant.
Thank you, sir.
That's what it
Is that the second applicant's case?
is. Indeed so.
Thank you. Second applicant's case. The affidavit also will be recorded at the end of the proceedings. It is admitted into the record.
As a court.
Mr. Kramer, choose number 15, the third applicant in this case.
Yes, you should also confirm my handling the affidavit in chambers. I will ask that to be accepted as an exhibit before court. Secondly, I think it's in the interest of justice, even the statement and the fact that the state doesn't oppose this bail application keeps the response. There is informal agreement with our 50,000 as everybody indicated for sure, but I'll leave it in the court.
Thank you. Mr. Fender, please stand up, sir. An agreement was reached with your legal representative that your affidavit doesn't have to be read into the record, as the court has gone through it, and due to COVID-19 regulations to save time. Do you confirm that?
I confirm it.
Thank you. The affidavit by the third applicant is accused number 15, also admitted, and will later be marked as exhibit. Thank you, Mr. Dinesen.
As it pleases the court, I have no objection against the mere handing in of these affidavits. Your Worship, it is correct, as my learned colleague stated, that there is an informal agreement that bail can be granted in the amount of 50,000 rand. Of course, the court has the last say in this regard, but the state is also of the view that it is in the interest of justice that the people, the accused, be released on bail, as it pleases. Yeah, just for the record, the state is not going to deduce any evidence.
You may stand up, Ms. Mudikwe. It's the judgment, the bail application. The applicant is Ms. Nozipo Belina Mudikwe. The first applicant was accused number 14. He is 40 years of age, married with 2 minor children aged 12 and 9. She indicates that she's a breadwinner earning a salary of around 90,000 rands per month, resides in Bloemfontein. She has a passport and is willing to hand same to the investigating officer. Those are some of the information that is contained in the affidavit, which the court will not bother to read in detail, save to state that the court has indeed considered the said affidavit and the information therein. And having considered the provisions of Section 60, subsection 4, and the fact that the applicant bears the onus of proving that the interest of justice permits her release on bail, having been given an opportunity to adduce evidence, which as indicated has already been admitted, the court has to consider then whether any of the factors mentioned in Section 60, subsection 4, paragraph A to E, read with subsection 5 to 8 have been established. And in this instance, the prosecution is not opposed to the release of the applicant. As I indicated, she is willing to hand over a passport to the state. And other than that, there is no factor, as mentioned in Section 60, subsection 4, paragraph A to E, that the court finds to exist. And as such, the interest of justice do permit the release of the applicant on bail. And the applicant, number 1, in this application, accused number 14, is granted bail in the amount of 50,000 rands. Thank you. You may sit down. The second applicant, Mr. Tabiso Magipe. The applicant is the second applicant in accused number 15 in the main charge, and he is 42 years of age, married with 3 children, age 8 and twins that are aged 5 years. He earns a salary of 88,000 rands per month, and he's also willing to submit his passport to or surrender his passport to the investigating officer. And the other factors appear in the affidavit, which the court will not bother to repeat. It's safe to state that the court has considered all the contents of the said affidavit, and the state has indicated is not opposed to the release of the applicant, as they do not believe that the interests of justice do not permit his release. Having considered all of those factors and the factors mentioned in section 60, subsection 4, paragraph A to E, read with subsection 5 to 8, the court finds that the interest of justice permit your release on bail, sir. You are also granted bail in the amount of 50,000 rand.
As a court.
Thank you. Mr. Fender. Third applicant in this application, and accused number 16, 64 years of age, married with no dependents, and a salary of 98,000 rands. The court has considered all the information that is supplied in the affidavit that has been admitted as part of the record, and the fact that the state is not opposed to the release of the applicant. The court has considered the provisions of section 60, subsection 4, paragraph A to E, and the relevant subsections, and found that the interest of justice permit your release on bail, sir. You are granted bail in the amount of 50,000 rand. Thank you.
As a please of the court. Your Worship, then there is the issue of the representation of accused 5 and 6 respectively. The initial director of Diamond Hill Trading 71 Pty Limited was murdered as indicated in the indictment. We have now cited an alternative director, being Lindy Kaya.
You're only dealing with 5 and 6.
I am only dealing with 5 and 6, the companies.
Yes.
We have then cited Lindy Kaya Mpambani. On behalf or representing accused number 5 and pertaining to accused number 6, Michelle Mpambani. I wish to place it on record, Your Worship, that these individuals are not charged as accused. They are merely representing the 2 entities that are indeed charged with several counts of fraud, money laundering, and so forth. I would, however, from the state side, suggest that they get legal representation. As a matter of fact, one of them has legal representation. I have been contacted. But it is a mere suggestion that they be represented in the High Court. Rather not they, but their companies. The documents served upon them, Your Worship, are the following. I hand in both of them for completeness of the record. And Your Worship will see that they are indeed brought before court as representatives of the different entities. Your Worship, my learned colleague here to my right indicates that he would like to address the court on this issue.
Speak the court, Your Worship. My name is Lungisani
Mancha.
Yes.
Lungisan.
Yes.
Mancha and NTSHA.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
I do appear on behalf of accused 6 and 5. Accused 5 is Erwin, and accused 6 is 605 Gonzalez. I do appear on.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, please.
announcement, Mr. Jason.
Thank you, Worship. The state is now going to request that the matter be transferred to the High Court, Free State Division of the High Court here in Bloemfontein, in terms of Section 75(1) of the Criminal Procedure Act. Now, I know that normally there are a number of documents handed in by the prosecutor, the VAs and so forth. We deemed it not necessary since I represent the Director of Public Prosecutions and can address all the necessary issues if they may arise some. I now hand a copy of the indictment to each and every one of these accused.
Please do so.
Warrant.
Yes. All so all the other accused, except accused number 1, are present.
That is correct. Pertaining to that issue, while the orderly is handing out these documents, my colleague Mr. Piper will just address you on that issue, the pertaining to the serving of the document.
Yes, sir.
Your Worship, it's true that the document has to be served on the accused himself. The accused in this instance gave me a special power of attorney in writing to accept the indictment on his behalf. And I'm of the view that this is only a practical way to deal with the matter going forward without having to postpone the matter again for service on accused number 1 in the magistrate court. With your permission, I would also then provide you with a copy of this special power of attorney. I've already provided the prosecuting authority with the same.
Thank you, sir. As for the record, the exhibits that were received, exhibit HIJ, respectively, and the power of attorney document is marked exhibit K. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, pertaining to this issue, Mr. Piper did contact me yesterday pertaining to the position of accused number 1. Although this is not the normal procedure, I have, from the side of the state, no problem with this manner of doing, because it was agreed on this manner of service. For if we did not do it this way, then this matter would have to be postponed again, causing great inconvenience to a lot of people. So, in the light thereof, I now hand to Mr. Piper a copy of the indictment. Thank you, Bishop.
The other legal representatives present. The legal representative of accused number 2, Mahlomula John Matlakala.
As a court, please, Your Worship, confirm my appearance on accused number 2 readiness.
Mr. Edwin Sodi.
Your Worship, I also appear on behalf of Mr. Sodi and Blackhead Consulting, the company that is representing accused number 4.
Mr. Manja, we've already confirmed the appearance for 5 and 6.
Indeed, Your Worship.
Accused number 7, Abel Kotominyaki. Sorry, sir. I skipped the page. Accused number 7 is still Academy.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Is there anyone on behalf of Master Trade? 232.
Your Worship, I'd like to bring to the attention of the court that Master Trade is currently liquidated, and the liquidators have not collected from court.
Abel Kotominyaki.
Your Worship, I also confirm my appearance on behalf of accused number 9, Monyaki.
Body Group. Body Group.
And number 10 as well, Your Worship.
Tabani Wiseman Zulu.
Your Worship, I appear for accused number 11. My name is Jorgensen, initial P. I'm instructed by Bearcoot Media Incorporated. I'd also like to confirm and acknowledge receipt of the filing indictment, Your Worship. Thank you.
Saram Lamledi.
I do confirm appearance on behalf of Mr. Lekagi. Lekagi. L-E-A-A-B-E. That is the
number. Elias Magashule.
Thank you, Your Worship. My name is Victor Mpashu, Your Worship. NKHWASHU. I act on behalf of Mr. Magashule.
I've already had the representative of accused number 14, 15, and 16 confirmed. So, Mr. Magashule, do you confirm receipt of your indictment?
I have not seen it, however, it was handed to my client, Your Worship. I see my learned friend has got an extra copy, to which I confirm receipt that I now have the indictment. Please, Your Worship. Thank you.
Mr. Elikabi, can I get back to you? Do you confirm receipt?
Your Worship, it's been handed over to time, so I believe I would say I confirm receipt of the indictment.
Elizabeth, you confirm receipt of indictment?
Your Worship, I understand that Mr. Zulu has received it.
Okay, you've already confirmed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you confirm, sir?
Indeed, sir, Your Worship.
Thank you. Over there?
I also confirm.
Thank you, Mr. Kramer.
I also confirm.
Thank you. The accused all received their indictments. Confirmed.
Thank you, Your Worship. We shall now relieve this Honourable Court of the burden of this case and ask that the matter be transferred to the High Court for appearance on the 11th of August of this year. Unfortunately, It is the only date that suits all the legal representatives. Your Worship, that will be for a pre-trial in the High Court in Bloemfontein. State requests that a warrant of arrest be issued for accused number 1 but held over or held in abeyance to that said date. The rest of the accused can be released on bail again and warned to appear on the 11th of August as a police report.
I take it all legal representatives confirm the date.
Your Worship, just to add, the one outstanding issue is that of disclosure of the police docket, which we will liaise with the state in order for us to furnish the copies of the docket in order to participate in the pre-trial. Please, Your Worship.
I see Mr. Denison is nodding. I can take that as an undertaking on his part.
Mr. Court.
Thank you. Yes, the bail of accused number 1 is provisionally cancelled. Bail money provisionally forfeited to the state. Warrant of arrest is authorized but held over until the 11th of August 2021. The accused, please stand. All of you stand up. I'm hoping that you're audible enough. The matter in terms of Section 75, subsection 2 of the Criminal Procedure Act 51 of 1977 is transferred to the Free State High Court for pre-trial proceedings on the 11th of August 2021. Accused number 1, as indicated, his bail is provisionally cancelled but warrant is held over. Accused number 2, number 3, number 7, number 9, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. I'll come back to accused number 14, 15, 16. They're either accused up to number 13. Your bail is extended. You all want to appear in the Free State High Court at half past 8. I'll only for 8:30 for pre-trial proceedings. Your bail is extended. Accused number 14, 15, 16, as indicated, your bail is 50,000 rands each. If paid, you also want to appear at 8:30 at the said High Court on the said date. Thank you. Thank you. You are all excused.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. That concludes our role. May we be excused.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Your Worship.
We are adjourned, so anyone wants to leave the seat.
Thank you.
All right, the breaking news on our watch this morning. This matter has now been transferred to the Free State High Court on the 11th of August for pre-trial proceedings. It's, we're told, the only date that suits all legal representatives. So they are now a total of 16 accused. 3 more were added this morning. We understand it's 3 senior government officials, and it was their first appearance. So there was a bail application. The state said it was in the interest of justice to release them on bail. The magistrate went on to release them, granted bail of 50,000 rand each. So that's the very latest from the Bloemfontein Magistrates Court. Matter now transferred to the Free State High Court, and that is on the 11th of August 2021 for pre-trial proceedings. We're going to get check in with our reporters very shortly. Samkele Maseko outside of court there as well. Also, Palesa Moeti following up with some of the supporters that have gathered in support of Ace Magashule, his appearance today. Just a bit of a note with regards to Palesa Moeti. She was engaging with one of the supporters of Ace Magashule earlier on, and at the time the person was Well, talking about his issues with the SABC and the feed cut, it was a technical issue. It was not intentional by any means by the SABC. We will go back to Palesa as soon as she's up and ready with regards to getting a sense of what was some of the concerns raised by that person. So just to note that it was not intentional that that feed was cut off. So we'll go back to Palesa in a short while. Samkele Maseko is ready outside court. Samkele, what are you witnessing there now that we know that this matter, we expected it to be transferred to the Free State High Court? Reaction outside court.
Being transferred to the Free State High Court on this particular issue of the fraud and corruption charges relating to the over 250 million rands asbestos case. We do know that those who are charged and the new charged who were brought into the charge sheet, the three individuals and the former advisor to legal advisor to the former Premier of the Free State, Ace Magashule, is also in the dock now. They will all be out on bail with all the other accused, and they will return to the Free State High Court. We are waiting for them to walk out of the Bloemfontein Magistrates Court any time from now. We also do know that where our colleagues Abongile Tumako and Palisa are at, Ace Magashule will be addressing his supporters at that particular venue. We did pose the question to ANC spokesperson Mpule Mabe on the issues of this gathering breaking the Disaster Management Act regulations imposed by the government of the day to try and avert the super spreader of events of COVID-19. They are saying that Magashule will just pass by and greet. We've seen a number of leaders of the ANC who've come out to support the Secretary General, such as Dakota Lekhwete, Batabile Dlamini, Mzwandile Masina, Supra Muhammapilo, who's also here in Bloemfontein. We've seen Sam Mashinini, who's inside court, the provincial chairperson of Free State, who is inside court. Our colleague Aphumelele Mdlalane has just come out of court now and was sitting in within those proceedings. I'm going to bring in Aphumelele just to answer a few questions. Aphumelele, just a brief summary of what took place inside court, and when is the next court appearance of the co-accused, and where do they go from here?
Actually, Samkele, the next appearance now will be in the High Court. That will be 11 August. We know that there were 3 arrests that were effected yesterday, and those people have been out on 50,000 rand bail. However, the accused number 1, which is Ntimo Simukhesi, didn't come through to court. Otherwise, all other accused were in court, and he apparently has been issued a warrant of arrest.
What do you then make of the issues of the gathering that's currently taking place when you speak of how COVID-19 regulations have to be adhered to and how there was minimal space for those who are supporting all the co-accused to be inside court? The SG of the ANC only had 2 supporters, which is Posane and Dagota and Pule Mabe inside court.
Samkele, all I can mention is that it was quite difficult, of course, to be inside court. Even as media, it was quite a struggle, but we managed to be inside, even though they reiterated the issue of COVID-19 regulations. However, we managed to get through in court, even though you did mention that the ACE supporters were just a few.
We have to cut you short there, Aphumelele, as we move closer to the SG of the ANC and Pule Mabe, who are about to address the media post this particular court appearance.
Yes, Leo, can you take us now? He's here.
Okay, members of the media, we just concluded the appearance. The case has been postponed to the 11th of August this year, but it will be moving to the High Court. SG, you might want to just take a bite, and I'm sure that we're not going to be doing a long address to the media, just to confirm to them that the case is now moving to the High Court. The SG has been quite cooperative with the processes, something that he has even indicated when the case began.
Yeah, I'm sure you have outlined the fact that the case is postponed now to a High Court. We hope for a speedy trial, because justice delayed, it's something else. So we are looking forward to the 11th of August.
Actually, why are you so confident that the MK has got nothing on you, saying that they can bring whatever they have on you, saying you're ready to take them on?
Come again?
Why are you so confident that you've done nothing wrong, that the MK has...
Of course, I've done nothing wrong. I'll prove in court.
So in the meantime then, since this is only coming back in August, from the political side then, are you comfortable with this delay? I know you obviously have to follow what the courts do, but this obviously means then this may have political implications for you since the NEC is still finalizing the step-aside guideline.
Well, there is the legal part and the political part. Let's leave it there. I think the ANC is dealing with the political part, but I'm happy with the legal part. And I hope that this matter will be finalized very soon.
Mr. Magashule, from the SABC here, on the issues of the political gathering that's currently taking place at the park here, are you going to be cautioning your supporters to stop breaking the Disaster Management Act regulations that have been put by government that prohibits political gatherings because there's a pandemic, a virus that's currently taking place through the coronavirus?
I don't know who we are talking about. I'm here, I don't see people here. Okay. So, but we always encourage people to respect the regulations and all that, to wear their mask and sanitize and keep social distance.
Mr. Magashule, do these charges exacerbate the political tensions within the governing party? There are those who feel as if you are being persecuted alongside former President Jacob Zuma by the current administration led by President Ramaphosa.
Well, I don't know. Out there, you know what is happening. As journalists, as the public, and as I say, we'll prove our innocence in a court of law.
Can I just deal with that as well? The SG is part of a collective. It's very important that at all times, yourselves in the media work to also contribute to the unity of the African National Congress. The SG was part of the last National Executive Committee. He had issued a statement conveying decisions of the National Executive Committee. He has pleaded with yourself over and over again that you allow the legal process that is currently being undertaken to follow through. And when that process is done, the SG will be able to speak. He is calling for a speedy trial so that you could be able to do his work without any haste. I think that must be the understanding. We're not going to be taking a lot of questions here. The SG will want to
allow them to ask whatever question.
Are you going to go address your supporters now? The ones that may be contravening the COVID-19 regulations?
Well, I don't see anybody here. My car is parked down there, so I'll walk down and yeah.
So, Mr. Magashule, we can take it that you are not going to be addressing anyone and you are not going to be disregarding the regulations put in place by government as the CEO of the ANC.
I will never disregard the regulations.
So you're not going to be addressing any crowd today?
I won't disregard the regulations.
Well, that was Elias Sikhobela Magashule, the SG of the ANC, saying he's not...
To my home province.
That was Magashule saying that he welcomes us to his province, and he is not saying that he's not going to be addressing anyone. As you can see him walking out of court on this particular matter that has been postponed. We expect him to go out to one of the parks to go and address the supporters here in the Free State who've come out to support the SG. You did see him inside court with Pulema, the ANC spokesperson, and his friend Tosane alongside the provincial chairperson of the Free State. That would be the Samashinini, the provincial chairperson of the Free State province. I'm going to bring in Sipho Ngwema, the spokesperson of the South African National Prosecuting Authority, on the postponement on this particular matter. Mr. Ngwema, just on the issues of the postponement and as the NPA, how far are you with the preparedness of this particular case which now moves to the Free State High Court?
Samkela would have loved to have the trial in May. Unfortunately, the defense can only be available on the 11th of August. Otherwise, we are ready. The investigation is done. Massive work has been done by all the agencies, SIU, the Hawks, the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions here in Free State, and also the Special Special Crimes Court Unit. So they've done phenomenal work. They've done this in 2 years. We are very ready in terms of what has to happen now. As I said to you, we would have loved to have the trial earlier, but unfortunately we can only have the pre-trial date in August.
Let me bring in my co-Apumela Mdlalane to ask a few questions if she's got any.
Thank you so much, Samkele. Mr. Ngwema, I did hear inside there, they were talking about Team Mukhesi, accused number one that, of course, he's hospitalized and brought forward a medical certificate. But I want to understand the issue of warrant arrest.
No, it's a normal court procedure. When an accused who's out on bail hasn't made it to court, and then a warrant is issued pending the attendance of that person in the next appearance. So there's nothing amiss there. That warrant will only be executed if there are no sensible reason that the court accepts. But for now, a medical certificate was submitted. We understand that the accused is not well, so we are hoping he gets well, but also hoping that he'll be with us in the next appearance in August.
And we also heard the state talking about a representative for the Diamond Hill Trading.
There's one of the companies that is being accused. You must remember, we have 11 accused persons, and the other 5 are companies. So Diamond Hill is one of the companies that is accused. I think it's accused number 5 or something to that effect. But it's one of the companies that is accused that is central in some of the criminal activities that took place in the asbestos matter.
Mr. Ngoma, can you just take us through the three who've just been added who are now co-accused on this particular matter, particularly around the former legal advisor to the former SG or the former premier of the Free State Province? What are the charges of these particular 3 that have been added to the charge sheet?
Of course, you know that we have got more than 70 counts of corruption, fraud, money laundering, and 2 of those, one of them was a CFO in the Human Settlement Department. The other one is an engineer, chief engineer there. The third person is a legal head in the office of the Premier. And as you know, that contracts were centralized in Free State, and they had to go through that office, through the office of the legal advisor, in terms of sanctioning those contracts. And you know that the allegation we have made is that this contract was irregular, it was illegal, and it shouldn't have gone past through that office, and know that as well that there's gratification that flowed to that office. So this is why we have added those 3, because they are central in terms of the allegations that we are making against the accused.
Quite a number of handful state witnesses there we saw, but we want to understand that they are from the different companies. If you can just link us through.
Undoubtedly, we have got more than 40 state witnesses. One of them you would know is in the United States of America. She used to work in the office of the Premier. So we are intending, if certain issues are not common cause, that the bulk of them will come out. Of course, if certain things become common cause, we may not have to ask all of them to come. But we are ready. As I said, the investigation is done. We are happy with the phenomenal work that has been done by the various agencies. And as I said, we wanted the trial to take place as soon as possible. In fact, we're suggesting May. Unfortunately, we couldn't force it on the defense. They are only available in August. So we'll wait for August, and hopefully from there we'll be able to start with the trial in earnest.
But whether there are issues that it should be in August instead of earlier?
The issue is that their legal representatives, some of the accused, are not available until August. So in order for them to have a fair trial, to have a legal representative of their choice, and to be able to defend themselves against the allegations, it is only fair to agree that we can have this in August so that they can have a legal representative of their choice.
Mr. Ngoma, the last one on my part, on the issues relating to the additional charges which you may have spoken about to my colleague Apumelele in the morning that you may add against the accused number 13, Magashule. Were any additional charges added to him, or if not, why not?
We have expanded a number of allegations in terms of accused number 13, which is the former premier, and you will see in the indictment we detail in terms of the activities that that took place that were illegal. I know that some of the criticism or some of the defense in the public space is that the allegations have to do with issues of oversight. No, the allegations are largely money laundering and corruption, and you will see that we detail those allegations, and we hope that he's going to be able to defend himself on those allegations. As I said, there are people in his office. One of the witnesses is someone who was in that office who's able to then testify on behalf of the state. So yes, we have expanded in terms of his allegations between the last time we were here and now.
Is Mr. Magashule facing fraud, corruption and money laundering charges? Can you be specific on the charges he's facing, because there's confusion on that particular matter?
You will see in the indictment money laundering, corruption in the main, and fraud.
Thank you very much, Sipong Wema, the spokesperson of the National Prosecuting Authority. I'm going to bring in my colleague Aphumelele Mdlalane for the very last time before we go to the political festivities in the park where ANC leaders are going to be addressing. Aphumelele, just to wrap this discussion up, you were inside court. How do you see this particular matter playing out going towards the trial later on in August this year?
As we heard from the NPA, they did mention that it's quite a big case, hence it's being transferred now to the High Court, saying that they are ready, of course, for the trial. And given the fact that they have more than 40 state witnesses, they are quite confident that they have a watertight case. I would say that the mood, I wouldn't really say that people were happy inside court. You'd see that there was just a bad mood, but all I can say is that the state is quite confident that it has a watertight case, knowing that also just yesterday 3 more were arrested with their investigations, of course. It's just this issue of the accused, number one, Ntimosi Mukhesi, whereby we understand that he is hospitalized. He did provide medical certificate, but there's an issue of a warrant of arrest. We hear from Sipong Wema saying that that's just a procedure. He has to appear by 11 August when this matter is taken to the High Court for trial.
When you look at the issues of particularly surrounding the former Premier of the Free State, and you've covered a lot of cases, particularly at the Supreme Court of Appeal and the High Court and the Magistrates Court here in the Free State, how would you characterize the state's strength of this particular case? Is it watertight? Is it lukewarm? Many people are also confused on what are the actual charges against Mr. Magashule.
I'd say this is a watertight case, given that on the indictment we saw that he has been involved, because by then when this tender was out in 2014, we know that he was still the Premier of the Free State, and did also announce on the State of the Province address that indeed this asbestos case tender is out, and the people, supposedly now the victims, the people of the Free State will, of course, the asbestos will be eradicated in favor of a good roofing. But also, when I went through the indictment, I did also notice that the Auditor General did give out the report where they did mention that there were irregularities in terms of procurement of this tender. We're talking about 255 million rand here, Samgele Maseko, about fraud, corruption, money laundering. And when you go through this indictment, you would see that there's just many people involved, and also the businessman Edwin Sodi. We know that he's also the one of the accused, and is also appearing on the transactions of these millions going in and out.
Thank you very much, Aphumelele Mdlalane. She will be following this particular court case inside court and facing those particular legal battles there, and reporting for the South African Broadcasting Corporation. From here at the Magistrates Court, it's over to the Festival of Politics, and we'll certainly bring it as the SABC team. All 4 of us will be there for the politics of the day.
All right, Samkele as well as Aphumelele, appreciate the reporting. So just to sum up there, you heard from Ace Magashule, the ANC Secretary General there, saying that he's hoping for a speedy trial, saying he has done nothing wrong, and which he will prove, as according to him, he will prove in court. Just to sum it up, so there are now 16 accused. 3 more were added this morning. And you heard from the NPA spokesperson there saying that they are central in the allegations the state is making against the accused. So it was their first appearance. So it was a bail application for them. The state said it was in the interest of justice to release them on bail. The magistrate granting bail of 50,000 rand each. Let's check in with our colleague Abungile Dumako, live for us, just a stone throw away from where Aphumelele and Samkele are. What are you seeing there, Abungile? Reaction to what has transpired in court?
A stone throw away indeed from the Magistrates Court here in Bloemfontein. A stone throw away as well from the provincial legislature of the Free State. A stone throw away to the Supreme Court of Appeal here in Bloemfontein. A park that is filled with thousands of ANC members who are out to support Secretary General Ace Magashule. Program already underway. The SG of the ANC expected to make his way here and address these thousands of supporters who've raised the sun and decided to come and show their support for their Secretary General. Not only the ANC leaders, the MK-MVA leadership that is seemingly behind Ace Magashule, but the ordinary members of the ANC on the ground have come out in number from all provinces in the country, Mpumalanga, Gauteng, Eastern Cape, you name it. We'll try and speak to a few of them, a plane that we've seen gathering here, to get a sense as to why was it important for them to come and actually speak, rather support Ace Magashule. Also, thanks for Nagoya House. Who would for when I would support Ace Magashule?
Kubaluleke kakhulu because u-AC uyinkokheli and manje into ekhona esemqoka ukuthi umuntu kumele ajajwe athole icala makase ilokhu njani inkantolo yiyo kumele imjaje, hayi ukuthi thina abantu sikhulume njalo sikhulume indaba eziningi. Okwamanje sizomsupporta all the way until the last day icourt izojaje ukuthi icala unalo.
And for when I'm fair to still go to Sugapi, and why decided to come here?
My name is Tato Mutapi. I'm from around here, Bloemfontein, in Mangaung, phase 3 hotel. So the reason why I came here is that I'm an AC member, a loyal AC member. So the problem is, in our ANC, it's been a while more nice as the National Executive Committee. So we let Magashule, then he's the first in our province representing the National Executive Committee. So we are very happy. Can't tell you that we get at here, Mr. Magashule is the one since we supporter from Intellectual today.
Okay, thank you so much. Those are some of the views that we are getting here, playing with people, especially young people wanting to come and talk about Ace Magashule. And that's good you can talk to us now. You are here still. The main reason behind you coming here namhlanje.
Ngilana ngokuzosupporta Ace Magashule njengoba bambeka amacala ukuthi akanacala until they prove herself is not guilty.
Well, there you have it, playing a lot of support coming out here at this park, which I just said is just around the corner from the provincial legislature of the Free State. People, yes, young people from all walks of life, saying that in fact we are going to support him till the end. This young chap we spoke just recently to him, just now to him, saying that Ace Magashule is the first person to represent them at a national level of the ANC, is now a member of the National Executive Committee of the party. So it is for those reasons and many that they've decided to come and support Ace Magashule. And the lady we just spoke to now, that one says he's not guilty until proven otherwise, and therefore he could do with the support from them as the ANC members on the ground. As I've said earlier on, playing, we are expecting Ace Magashule to come here and join these supporters here and actually address them. He did quite say a lot during his last appearance as he addressed his supporters outside the Bloemfontein Magistrates Court, waiting anticipation. What will he say today regarding the fact that there's a resolution that is being discussed, guidelines being given by the National Executive Committee of the ANC as to this is how it should be approached when a leader or a member of the party is involved in any wrongdoing in terms of corruption, should consider stepping aside. I've heard him speak to our colleagues by the court, Sambiele Maseko, saying that in fact that's the issue that the ANC is dealing with. To wait and see how is he going to address these supporters here. Play.
All right, Abungile Dumako live for us there. Stand by, sir. We'll come back to you shortly. Let's bring in Palesa Moeti, who's in the area as well, monitoring the scenes outside court. Palesa, a very good morning to you. We do apologize. Earlier on we were talking to you and your feed cut off. Just remind us about what happened there. What was the conversation all about and what transpired?
Well, at that particular moment, we had one of the ANC members who was just passing by, and he actually wanted to raise an issue with the SABC. At that point, he was saying that the SABC is biased in its reporting. He mentioned an interview done by one of our colleagues where the ANC chairperson in the Free State, Semashinini, got cut off. And his interpretation of that situation was us as the SABC being biased and not wanting to listen to other views that he believes we're not comfortable with. However, what I would like to say is that, you know, with live broadcast, technical issues are just part and parcel of the process. Similar to, you know, how we got cut off, there was an audio issue with that interview that he raised issues with. But, you know, I would just like to say that it was not a deliberate action by the SABC. It was definitely not human error. Normally, technical problems are part and parcel of a live broadcast. We've experienced that already today, like you've said, Blaine. But right now, I just want to mention that we are at a park here, just close to the court. This is where the ANC Secretary General and other ANC members are expected to come and start addressing, rather ANC leaders. They will be addressing members that have come here today in support of the SG and obviously the former mayor of Mangaung Metro, also former MEC of Kokta here in the Free State. They will be obviously addressing supporters, meaning leadership will be addressing supporters as soon as the court proceedings, you know, are finished. But to talk to us right now is the ANC Chief Whip in the Free State, Lucy Chabalala. Dr. Chabalala, from what we've heard so far, while you and other leaders have been speaking on the podium, you believe that what's happening in the court is a political battle playing out in court.
Well, we have seen this thing, we have seen it, and we are still seeing it today. This happened with President Jacob Zuma when we were going to Polokwane in 2007. The Scorpion were used to attack and to play the role of politics. Even today, the same hawks are being used to attack leaders of the ANC, and they are used, and they don't get any cases. And this is why we are calling for the NGC as the ANC to decide, as branches of the ANC, what we want to see happening in the ANC. We are not happy. Courts are being used, judges are being bought. We know, we got this information. At the right time, we will definitely come and talk. That is why we are calling for a new constitution. We are calling for ordinary masses of our people, the youth out there, to come and vote so that we are able to change the constitution of this country. We are sick, we are tired as members of the ANC. We are saying we are not promoting corruption. As members of the ANC, anybody who is found guilty, that the law must take its course. But now people have been purged. People have been purged. I'm one person who was the mayor, and they said to me, I was once corrupt. Even today, the Hawks can't prove that case. They are still investigating us. That is why we will stand up and rise and defend the organization, because the ANC does not have anything wrong that the ANC can do. Sometimes it's us leaders who are wrong.
How do you think the ANC is going to be able to convince the electorate to vote for it if there are so many battles internally within the ANC?
Well, the battles are just being caused by the minority within the ANC. There are few people who are calling themselves the ANC. The ANC is a broad church. The ANC is a big elephant. That is why you must understand in any structure, even in the structure of the ANC, we follow the processes of the organization. If you are a member of the ANC, if you are not satisfied, there are processes that are due within the process of the ANC. What we see today, members of the ANC going to court, using the court to fight the battles of the ANC, it's foreign to us. It's foreign to us.
And what are you going to do about that then?
Well, as a member of the branch, and I know I'm going to be the delegate for National General Council, I will express the view of the branch. And my branch today is sick and tired of what is happening. And the ANC is being sold in the highest bid. The Western countries want to govern our place. This is our town, this is our country, Africa is our home.
Who is selling the ANC?
Well, we'll come to that space. Look, I can't use media to say anything, but we'll raise these matters at the right time. We are here to support the Secretary General of the ANC, Meoli, as the member or the chairperson of the Women's League in the province, to say enough is enough of this Chapter 9, Chapter 10 institutions that have been used to attack members of the ANC.
So, how do you suggest recommendations by Chapter 9 institutions ought to be implemented?
Well, we have seen what is happening today. The public protector is under attack. But previously, Tulima Donsela has never been attacked. Tulima Donsela has always been a public protector whom everybody respected. But today, the current public protector, Busisiwe, is not being respected. We see the outcomes of court. That is why we are calling for total change of the constitution. And the only time we can change the constitution is for us as the youth of today, like the 1976 youth that stood up and fought the Bantu education. We will stand up and fight as the youth of today.
What do you hope to hear from the leadership that will be coming out of court today?
Well, comrades are here to support the leadership. We are going to support Msholozi. I will still be in Peter Marisbeck. We will support every leader of the ANC and we will ensure that leaders are... We are members of the ANC in good standing. We don't buy membership like other leaders who buy membership to be elected. So in the NGC, at the right time, we will speak about all these issues.
Thank you very much. That is the Chief Whip of the ANC here in the Free State, Vusi Chabalala, making it very clear that there are some serious division within the party, but saying that those will be dealt with at the NGC level. With that, it's back to you in studio.
All right, Palesa Moeti, live for us there. Thank you very much indeed. No doubt we have a lot of eyes on the story. Very soon we're going to bring in our political editor here at the SABC, Mzwandile Mbeche, to get his take on the matters. But just to give you a summation of what transpired so far. So in total now, we know that there are 16 accused. 3 more were added this morning. And you heard from the NPA saying that this is crucial to their case in terms of the allegations that they are putting forward. Those 3 have been granted bail of 50,000 rand each at the Magistrates Court. The update, the breaking news that we did report on earlier on is that it will now be moved. This case will now move from the Magistrates Court to the Free State High Court. These are live visuals, by the way. The new date for pre-trial is the 11th of August. We heard the NPA saying that they would have loved to have this case, this trial, in May. But we heard from the state a little earlier on saying that it was the only date that suits all the legal stakeholders and legal representatives as well. This matter, as you know, relates to the awarding of a more than 250 million rand Free State asbestos roofing contract. Just to remind you about what Asa Magashule, the Secretary General of the ANC, said on the steps of the Magistrates Court. You heard him engaging with our reporter Samkele Maseko, saying that he's hoping for a speedy trial, saying that he has done nothing wrong, which he will prove in court. And we also heard that, he looks confident in terms of this case. What is our political editor's read on this matter? Let me bring in Mzwandile Mbeche, live for us in studio. Mzwai, a very good morning to you. Do we have Mzwai on the line?
The viewers.
All right, Mzwandile Mbeche, our political editor, live for us in studio. Look, as I was saying, we have a number of eyes on this story in every angle, a phalanx of cameras reporting on this. So as soon as anything happens, they will take you back to the Free State. But from your vantage point, Mzwai, you heard the Secretary General Ace Magashule saying that he hopes for a speedy trial. He's ready for anything. What's your read on the events that happened now?
Well, Blaine, this is quite interesting. When you look at what is happening currently, basically there are 2 processes underway right now. You have a legal process and a political process that is really unfolding. Yes, the legal process is now taking its shape, and of course we know that the pre-trial, as has been communicated, will start on the 11th of August. But the most significant one is the political process. The fact that you are seeing those number of people there gathered to come and support their Secretary General tells you a very big story about what is to unfold. This year we are set to have the National General Council, which is quite big and which really could give an indication of where we're going with this, because every person that we have spoken to, our reporters have spoken to, they've been basically saying, well, Ace Magashule is not guilty. So they have been basically saying this is being engineered elsewhere to achieve a particular political end. In fact, if you remember what happened last time Magashule appeared, they were even banning the T-shirts of the current president of the ANC. So you can see that the divisions within the ANC are actually deepening. So we are really looking forward to hearing what he has to say when he addresses those supporters. But the battle lines, plain I can tell you now, they are drawn in terms of the political process. Yes, the legal process will take its own shape. I think we had Sibongwema basically saying they are ready. So in fact, they were ready to proceed in May. But the defense obviously asked for some time. So this is interesting, and the parallels are being drawn with the former president Jacob Zuma's situation. So you can see where we're going. In fact, it's going to be very interesting how the ANC will actually adopt those guidelines, the step-aside guidelines, because they relate directly to the Secretary General of the ANC plane.
Look, we'll hear more from Mr. Magashule very shortly in terms of what he will say this time around. We know what he said last time around. I was elected by branches at conference. I will go back to a special conference and branches must say to me, Comrade Ace, Magashule, step aside. I will then do so. That was his posture then. How does that play in to what is currently being discussed within the ANC with regards to the step aside issue?
Plain, this battle, you can see, it's now been taken to the branches. It's now been taken to the ground. The fact that that's what he pronounced the last time, the fact that he's addressing generally the ordinary members or the ordinary supporters of the party is telling you that he is basically saying, you bring it on, but these are the people who will decide. In fact, he is holding the office of the Secretary General. It's quite an important office because just about everything comes through that office. That's where everything is done. Everything, the audit and everything relating to the organization is done there. So given that here is the man who has the access to that, it will not be easy for him to simply agree to the step aside because he will deprive himself of all of that. Because he has made it clear that if the branches say, I step aside, I will do. As for now, why should I then remove that link between me and the branches? So, as I was saying, Blaine, this is quite interesting. I mean, this is politics at full play. Yeah. And even if you hear some of the people who are saying, I mean, the former mayor there that Palisa spoke to is basically now, you can hear the discussion is shifting towards the constitution. The issue of the judges keep coming up. And they are basically saying, so let's engage on a new political process, and then currently we feel the current people who are in charge may not be doing enough, so that's why they are saying let's then push with these new people. I mean, for example, Magashule is being seen as the supporter of the radical economic transformation agenda. So if he is seen as the supporter of that radical economic agenda, so clearly he is the one who they will forward when the time comes. It will be very interesting, Plain, what will happen at the NGC. In fact, we know the league as well, the youth league, is to hold its conference. So anyone who will be winning there will give you an indication of where this thing is going.
If the ANC-NEC confirms, goes ahead with the step-aside resolution, and Mr. Magashule maintains his posture, his position, consequences for the party in the long run, especially ahead of the next election?
Well, basically, if the ANC then pronounces and then instructs, and then but nothing happens, you're creating a precedent that should be very difficult to then avoid. Because if at the highest level, people are not to follow what the party says, so why should an ordinary member do that? So I think the ANC will need to do a lot of introspection. It normally puts very good ideas. It's very idealistic in how it wants to do things. But when it comes to action, it tends to fall short. So let's see this guideline. Let's see where this thing takes us. Let's see how the general membership responds. But I can tell you now, Blaine, it's going to be contested. That guideline issue, it's not going to be an easy walk. It's not going to be a walk in the park, because some people will want the branches to get involved. And you know how they say it in the ANC, the branch is the most important element in the party. So if the branches decide, and I can hear perhaps other people even calling for a special conference to try and resolve this thing. But the NGC, for me, will really set the tone of what is to happen.
From what you're hearing, the temperature of views on the ground, a special conference, is that even plausible?
Well, depending on if the majority of the branches in terms of the constitution were to suggest that it would be held, of course it will have to be. But believe it or not, Blaine, next year the ANC goes to an elective conference. So that's what I'm saying. You look at what the NGC is going to say, it will basically give you an indication of where we're going with this.
Right.
Because if the NGC insists that this issue needs to be resolved as soon as possible, I think it could be called as soon as December. But of course, if, remember, there are other people who may not necessarily share the sentiment. So if those people then feel, well, they still need to wait for the conference, so that will happen. But it will then raise the temperatures even big, because you would see people now contesting to wrestle the ANC in 2022. Yeah. I mean, I've been seeing some of the posters. They are already saying Magashule 2022. So you know that 2022 is the elective conference of the ANC. Yes, the president of the ANC is elected for one term, but it has become some sort of a tradition that he or she will serve 2 terms. Many people would expect the current president to contest, but if he is being contested, so you'd then see who will contest him. In fact, given what is happening now, they are basically laying the ground for contesting him.
No doubt, Mzwai, that you have your ears close to the ground, even from here in Auckland Park, in terms of what's happening in KwaZulu-Natal, in terms of Nkandla. We saw the Becky Cele visiting with the former president, Jacob Zuma. What are you hearing with regards to the possible agenda of that meeting, that visit?
Well, Blaine, you'd know that one of the issues really that has been raised, particularly by the ANC in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, is that the top 6 of the ANC meet with the former president to try and deal with this issue because it's really paralyzing the country. And I think Minister Begicele or NEC member Begicele going there to Nkandla to meet with former president is basically to find a way of getting them to meet and them to resolve this issue. Because the ANC a couple of days ago issued a statement, the statement basically saying, we urge every member of the ANC to cooperate with the Zondo Commission. We supported the work of the Zondo Commission. So former President Zuma is the member of the ANC. He's been the leader of the ANC. He's actually been the leader of the country. So if their governing party issues a statement of that nature, and then a person who has led the ANC says, I'm not going to Zondo, so they have to find a way. So that is why you would see a number of people going to Nkandla to try and perhaps convince a former president and perhaps make him see in a different way that as much as he may feel in a particular way, but it's important to do right so that ordinary people will be able to also do right.
You know, as you mentioned, with regards to this case, regarding Ace Magashule, you mentioned at the top of this interview is that there's the legal process and then there's the political process. When you look at what's happening with regards to the former president, Jacob Zuma, you can argue that both are happening at the same time as well. Legal process aside, let's look at the politics of this whole matter. What's the feelings? What are analysts telling us with regards to, does the former president put forward a convincing political argument?
Well, Blaine, the fact of the matter is that the former president still commands huge support on the ground. And then you don't want a situation where the country may then slide into chaos, because if the leaders are not able to handle this matter in a very matured way, this has the potential of creating instability. And look at the province, KZN, for example. You and I come from there. We know how volatile that province can be. So you don't want to then start creating a situation where those flames can easily be lit. Yes, some people would simply say, look at the legal process and deal with it once and for all. Sure, follow that. But former President Jacob Zuma is not like you and I. As I was saying, he still has a number of supporters. I mean, we've been seeing people going there, expressing their own support. So then find a way of making sure that as much as he has to comply with the legal processes, but of course manage it politically. That's why you saw someone like Begicele go there to say, yes, we understand your frustration. We understand that you don't want Zondo to preside over your matter, or rather to be the chairperson. But the process still has to be respected. And I think that was the key message, perhaps, that Begicele went there to convey, but to basically get perhaps a situation where these could meet and iron out this situation, because at the end of the day, something will have to be done. It can't just be a standoff forever.
Levi Ndau, he's a political analyst, into this conversation with regards to what has transpired this morning. Sir, thank you very much indeed for coming on. Your take, look, you heard, I'm not sure if you heard our political editor there, Nzondile Mbeche, talking about this issue regarding Ace Magashule being a legal process on one hand and a political process on the other hand. Your read on the state of play?
This is, for me, is both political and legal, but primarily this is a legal matter, in the sense that you have got law enforcement agencies in the form of the NPA that says that we have got a case against the Secretary General of the ANC. And if one is to relate this with the case of the former president, these are similar instances wherein both are facing criminal charges in the court of law, but in a way, because they are politicians, they are actually trying their best to bring in politics into this aspect, because they are political leaders and they want to justify or want to present a posture that says that there are certain individuals that are actually behind these criminal activities. But in my view, we need to be able to separate the two. Yeah. Firstly, in South Africa, we are all equal before the law. And all of us must actually follow the prescripts of the law. But also at the same time, the institutions that the ANC has fought for, their establishment, should actually be respected by the same leaders of the ANC. And at the same time, politics and legal processes, there should be a way to separate the two. And in this case, unfortunately, there seem to be the mixture. And I hope the ANC should find ways of trying to provide the separation between the two.
The law is one thing, but public perception and public opinion sometimes can differ with regards to some of the prescripts of the law. When you look at some of the support that the ANC Secretary General Ace Magashule is getting outside court, what's your read in terms of the temperature views on the ground? Are his supporters, wanting or interested in the merits of this case, or do you think it's a foregone conclusion in their minds that Mr. Magashule is being wrongfully persecuted?
I think it's also important to separate between blind support and sympathy. Some might be going there because they are sympathetic that Ace Magashule, who has been their premier, is being held before the courts. And some might be saying that even though we are not interested in the merits of the case, we're just supporting him as an individual. But also at the same time, I always get an emphasis from the other supporters of Ace Magashule who are saying that these cases are politically motivated. And what I find it difficult to get is how then are they politically motivated? Are they motivated by members of the ANC, or are they motivated by the opposition members outside the ANC? But what the sense that I get is that they seem to be saying that the current president is involved in the orchestration of these cases. And if that is the case, you actually require some form of proof. But when it comes to public perceptions, the public perceptions for me says that the ANC is a party that is very much tolerant to corruption. There are some members of the ANC who would love to see the ANC and its leaders continuing with corrupt activities because maybe some of them are the beneficiaries of these corrupt tendencies. Another perception that I draw from this court appearance is that there seemed to be an element of being impatient or an element of trying to disregard the law enforcement agencies, because some part of what I see seem to be an element of intimidating the court proceedings, so that those that are in court or are in charge of these cases should actually be intimidated in order to, at the end of the day, come with an outcome that will be favorable to certain individuals. But another aspect that for me is very important is that factionalism in the ANC is entrenched, and that's why you have got a grouping in the ANC which is called the RET. And this RET force within the ANC, it's known by everybody within the party, and as long as the ANC still recognizes this RET as a force, then it's an entrenchment of these groupings within the ANC, and the ANC has got the RET group and the other RET group. But lastly, the ANC today has got two bigger groups: the group that supports corruption, the group that is fighting against the law enforcement agencies, and you have got another group that is against corruption. And this group is actually saying that let's respect the processes of the law and all people are equal before the law.
Mzwandile Mbeche, jump in on this issue with regards to the temperature of views on the ground from his supporters in terms of listening to the merits of this case. Your take?
Well, at this stage, Blaine, I think you and I, and perhaps the analysts and other people would be interested in hearing perhaps the legalities of the case. But when it comes to the ordinary membership right now, it's clear the battle lines are drawn. And then because the battle lines are drawn, so they have decided they will push it as far as they can. That's why, I mean, I keep referring to the gatherings that are coming, which for us will give us the real picture, the clearer picture as to where we're going with this. But insofar as the legalities are concerned, I think it will be very interesting to hear when the pre-trial begins in August. And we know that too will be accompanied by the political spectacle, which has become part and parcel of this. And I think the issue really, Blaine, is that they will push this until I think until the last day, because remember we have examples. We have seen how it happened with the former president Jacob Zuma. So I see this situation taking the similar route, and I see some of the pronouncements and look at some of the people who will be there. It's very, very interesting. In fact, our colleagues were saying Mzwandile Masina will be there. And remember, he had accompanied Julius Malema when they went to have tea with the former president in Kandla. Yeah. So this is basically, I know it's many people would not want to say it, but you can see there's some sort of realignment in terms of our politics within the ruling party. This is what is happening. It doesn't matter how much they deny it. This is the fact. This is what we are seeing on the ground.
Mr. Ndo, speaking about the so-called Tea Party or Tea Meeting, let's get your take with regards to what has been transpiring over the past couple of weeks, or the week. We saw the MKMVA members stationed outside the former president's home in Nkandla. A number of people have visited him, the latest being Becky Cele. What's your read on what has transpired over this week?
Yeah, well, I want to agree fully with what Mzwandile said. There is an element of realignment within the party, but also the other grouping, the RET forces, are actually regrouping, and they're actually making their intentions very clear, in the sense that they are saying that only 5 years, as Magashule said, after Nazareth, it's only five years, and we're actually going to take over. We are starting by ensuring that actually the opportunity for S. Magashule to appear now, it's good enough for them to regroup. And coupled with what is happening with former President Zuma now, now they are able to come together and reorganize themselves and prepare for all the other gatherings that are actually coming of the ANC.
All right, it seems that we are having a bit of an issue with the political analyst there, Levi Ndo. Let me bring in Abongile Dumako live for us in the Free State, back into this conversation. Abongile, what are you witnessing there now?
Lane, of course, we are still alive at this park which we spoke about earlier on. Currently, the contingent of ANC members is quite big, and it's kind of difficult for them to observe social distancing. As I'm talking to you, Andy Lungisa, all the way from the Eastern Cape, talking to these thousands of people here, appealing to them that, in fact, let's make sure that we observe social distancing, the regulations that are in existence, that are guiding us on how we should behave on COVID-19. I'm not sure if that message is well received currently, as people have been here from the early hours of the morning showing support for Ace Magashule. The very Ace Magashule we've seen being driven around the streets of Bloemfontein in an open top car, greeting his supporters, his homemates, as you would imagine. He's also from this province. Right across the streets of Bloemfontein, we've seen him doing that, driving around. We are expecting him to take to this podium behind me anytime from now. We understand he's arrived at the park. He's going to talk to these hundreds of thousands of ANC supporters, specifically came here to support him. We've seen leadership of the ANC from Mpumalanga, Deputy Secretary General J. Lindiwe Chalinchali, being part of these proceedings that are happening here at this park. I've just said now Andy Lungisa also addressing the crowds here. A lot of people in a lot of happy mood, if you like, jubilation all across, just to show support for Ace Magashule.
Read on the situation there. Give us a sense, Abongile, of how many people are present currently where you are.
The former president now, Jacob Zuma.
Well, it's thousands of people that are here, Blaine. I can attest to that. It's, I would say, 2,000 maximum of the people that are here, all the way from different provinces across the country, saying that they want to actually support Ace Magashule. The crowd that is here, you know, there's a lot of people. I'm going to ask Kwazimanzi, my camera person, to show you an idea of how many people are here. Blaine, you can see for yourself. There's members of the MKMVA here. There's also members of the ANC Women's League. There's members of the ANC Youth League. Young people from all walks of life, you know, coming in numbers to make sure that they are able to, you know, showcase their support for Ace Magashule. This park usually sits people who would be having lunch, who work around, you know, the provincial legislature, which is just a stone throw away from here. Some work at the Supreme Court of Appeals here in Bloemfontein. Now it's packed to capacity by members of the ANC supporting Ace Magashule. I'm sure you can see some are ululating, some are actually showing support to Ace Magashule. This is, of of course, Ace Magashule is being waited for to come and talk to these supporters.
So, Abongile, stand by. We're going to come back to you in a short while. Levindo, political analyst, as well as our political editor here at the SABC, Mzondile Mbeche, still with us. Mzwai, I'm not sure if you saw those visuals now. Abongile describes it as thousands that have gathered in terms of showing their support for the Secretary General of the ANC. Your take on the amount of support he's getting today?
Well, in fact, Blaine, that's quite interesting. You know, obviously I can't dictate what's happening, but it will be very interesting to hear what Andile Lungisa, who's on the stage, saying now. Remember, we've been talking about the realignment and about the people who are part of this new agenda, if I may call it that one. That one. So it will really be very interesting to hear Andile Lungisa. It's quite important in this bigger scheme of things. And that kind of support that you are seeing there does tell you that certainly something on the ground is happening.
It's our command. Let's go now. Take in Andile Lungisa and listen to what he has to say. We'll come back to you, so I stand by.
We'll go to jail, we'll even come back from jail, but will remain with the masses of our people. We'll never run away from our people. The Secretary General will never run away from you. Is not here, comrades, because he respects the regulations. We're here respecting the regulations. That's why we're here to request you to observe the social distance. Comrades can be able to go to their provinces, their regions, their branches, their constituencies. Thank you very much, comrades. We highly appreciate your discipline. We will also come back to come and support the Secretary General of the ANC on the 11th of August this year, 2021. We'll also, comrades, some of us will even go to Cape Town and go and support Comrade Bongo. Comrades, next week we are going to go to KZN in Pietermaritzburg and go and support the former President Zuma. We are not going to run away, comrades. We are going to be on the road. But what we know at the end, the South Africa is a British satellite because we are still under Britain. We will liberate ourselves under the leadership of Britain in this country because we are still a British satellite. Comrades who are here, as you go back to your constituencies, connect with your own constituencies, make sure that we are strong all over the country in order to liberate this country as a British satellite. That is the agenda, comrades, as we move forward. In those few words, thank you very much for coming. Program Director, the Reverends, comrades from provinces, all provinces, who are leading this process. Thank you very much for coming. We said you must be here, observe the regulations, even the members of the media. Thank you very much. You must be able to report that we have observed the regulations. We have thanked the comrades who are here. We have requested them to go back to provinces, including the comrades who are part of the NEC who are here, the leadership of the MKMVA led by Comrade Ukepi, and no Comrade Ukal, the leadership of COSAS, the SG of COSAS, the leadership of the Youth League is here, the leadership of Sango is here, the workers, they are here, the leadership of COSATU, the comrades from the Communist Party, they are also here. We are happy that comrades of SASCO, they are also here. We have received message even from international organizations. Thank you, comrades, for coming. Thank you very much, our program directors.
All right, there you go. Andile Lungisa, the Mzwa, you wanted to listen in there. I think it was important to get that take as well, put into context in terms of the amount of support that Mr. Magashule is getting. But not only him, you heard their support for, as he mentioned, Comrade Bongo, as well as the former President Jacob Zuma. Your take, Mzwa?
Well, Blaine, I kept on saying you can see there's realignment that is happening. So we know that Andile Lungisa has always been aligned with people like Ace Magashule, and of course he's a very staunch supporter of former President Jacob Zuma. And when you hear what he basically said, he is saying in his own words this is a member of the ANC. This is he's very senior, obviously, having come through the ranks of the Youth League. Yes, he may still be young, but he's very senior in terms of the experience. He is saying South Africa is still a British satellite. They have to liberate themselves from the British, basically. So if the members of the governing party are able to say that in public, so the president of the country currently is the president of the ANC, Cyril Ramaphosa. So is he saying the current president is taking directives from the British? So you can see, I mean, all that we've been saying, yes, we understand there's a legal case right now, but the legal case is really being used to really launch a serious political offensive in terms of recapturing or taking over the ANC come 2022. So you will hear the statements of other people before Ace Magashule or even Ace himself when he speaks. So that will really tell you where we're going with this. And I said to you, the gatherings that are coming, particularly the NGC, will be a great barometer.
Levindo, you initially, earlier on, said that factionalism is entrenched in the ANC. Having seen the support there that is being given to Ace Magashule, and then you heard Andile Lungisa pledging support to Comrade Bongo says that he's pledging support to the former president, Jacob Zuma. When you talk about factionalism, are you seeing it as a split down the middle? How do you see it?
Well, I see this as a split down the middle. But for me, it is informed by a number of factors. But the main factor being that there is a group within the ANC that is organizing itself behind ANC leaders who are facing criminal charges in court. And as you heard from Andile Lungisa, they are going to provide support for former President Zuma. They are also going to provide support to Mr. Bongo, and that is why they are providing support to Ace Magashule. So the ANC, for me, is saying here that those that are facing criminal charges, in the main corruption charges, they are going to be supported by this group called the RET. But also at the same time, these RET forces are arranging themselves in order to take over the leadership of the ANC, because there are certain elements within the ANC that are using state institutions in order to get rid of these people. But also at the same time, if one has to come to a question, I actually see a split within the party. Remember, when the ANC has been supportive of former President Zuma whilst he was in office, there were consequences when it came to the results. The support that you see in Mangaung today is the support of those that are supporting Ace Magashule against his corruption cases. But there are also ordinary citizens in South Africa who have always been voting for the ANC. And these people will actually be saying now that enough is enough. I cannot continue voting for a party that will boldly go out and support people that are facing criminal charges. If you have, you look at the developments at the Zondo Commission, and you get the response of ordinary citizens on the ground, some are actually saying that enough is enough with this ANC that is very much supportive of its leaders that are facing criminal charges. And I would expect the ANC to do the same in support of all their other members when they are also facing other incidents apart from criminal cases. And unfortunately, that has not been the case.
All right, let's bring in back into the conversation Abongile Dumako. He's been listening in to what's been transpiring in that stage behind him. What have you been hearing, Abongile, from your vantage point in terms of the big takeaways from the speeches there?
Basically, just in Andile Lungisa having addressed the crowds here, he actually came up with something that I think these thousands of supporters didn't expect. He says ANC Secretary General Ace Magashule will no longer be addressing them due to COVID-19 regulations, saying that it would be uncalled for a leader in society to disobey regulations to the extent that he would address crowds that are even finding it difficult to observe social distancing. We understand then, though, from the media personnel of the ANC that Ace Magashule will talk to us as the media as the day progresses. We wait in anticipation then, Blake, to hear what he has to say about what transpired in court. We've been looking forward, I must say, to hearing what Magashule had to say, was out to say to these crowds, remembering the fact that the last time he did quite a mouthful as to the fact that he will not step aside as the Secretary General of the ANC unless the branches of the ANC order him to do so. It was these very branches, members of the branches then who were gathered here hoping to hear him speak, but unfortunately he won't be speaking. A prayer session did take place, reverends from the province saying that they are behind Ace Magashule. They are going to pray for him until the end of time. Some even going to an extent that he's saying he's the incoming president of the ANC. We wait and see if that will happen. We've also heard earlier on, Blaine, that there was some singing happening here. People saying that they want a special elective conference to actually see change happening in the leadership of the ANC. What does that mean? We wait and see. It will unfold. Remember, there's an NGC of the ANC coming. We don't know what might transpire there with regards to what is being said, which one would say is a tone of how the NGC will look like. So basically, Ace Magashule not going to address the crowds. As I'm talking to people now, beginning to disperse, going back to their respective provinces.
I'm interested to know, in terms of the initial reaction from the crowd when that was announced, that the SG will no longer be addressing them or will not be addressing them. What were their reactions?
Disappointed written all over their faces, because they were waiting in anticipation to hear what their Secretary General is going to say. Imagine having woken up early in the morning, driving to Bloemfontein to support Ace Magashule from Mpumalanga, from the Eastern Cape, from Gauteng, the Northwest, only to be told that he won't be talking to you. That did come as a bit of a surprise and a disappointment for the many people whom we've seen here, waiting to hear from Ace Magashule. Let me show you again, Blake, a different story altogether now, a totally different picture from what you saw a few minutes ago. Those thousands of people you'd think that they were not even here. There's those smaller Nyana ones that have been, that are left, also sort of beginning to disperse, which is a sign that now the day has come to an end. There isn't going to be that address that was much anticipated by these supporters of the ANC. I'm sure you can see that there's literally fewer people than what you've seen a few moments ago when you were crossing to us. That's basically what's happening right now. Literally everything has come to an end. We wait then if that what we've been told by the ANC communications personnel that Ace Magashule will be talking to us later on. If that does take place, we'll be sure to wait and hear how he feels and what he thinks of what has transpired in court today. We understand, of course, Blaine, that the court, the case has now been postponed to August, where he will be appearing again in court. Let me also add, Blaine, that Andile Lungisa is adamant, saying that they will go all out as ANC members to support their fellow former leaders and current leaders who are sort of on the wrong side of the law. We understand that Bongani Bongo, the former Minister of State Security, is actually in court as well in the Western Cape, and Lungisa says he's prepared to go there with other fellow members of the party to support him. Former President Jacob Zuma, also in Pietermaritzburg, will be appearing in court there. He says he'll be there. He's not deterred. He'll make sure that his leaders or his fellow comrades are being given the maximum support that they deserve. We wait and see if you'll be able to keep up with the stamina, but seemingly having been the bearer of the bad news that Ace Magashule won't be talking to these crowds, we wait and see if this message from him to continue to support ANC leaders, current and former, will find resonance within the ANC members across the country.
All right, Brother Dumako, thank you very much indeed for your great reporting. As soon as you get that interview, come back to us and bring us that interview. We'll get you live as soon as we can. Let's take you back now bring in Mzondile Mbecha, our political editor here. Interesting developments, no doubt. Look, to be fair to Mr. Magashule, he didn't confirm that he was going to speak to the crowds that have gathered there to us. But now that it's confirmed that he's not going to address, what do you make of that?
Well, that's a very responsible thing to do under the current regulations. I mean, just imagine a member of the top six of the ANC disregarding the regulations, and then the next day the president who he sits with announcing that we have to observe those things. So it would have sent a very bad message, and I think that was the right thing that the Secretary General of the ANC did. In fact, as you were saying, he didn't confirm that he was going to address those people. In fact, he basically said he was going to respect the COVID regulations. So he basically kept his word. So as for ordinary people, obviously they will be disappointed. But I think then the message will then drill, because we are still in a pandemic, Blaine. We can be talking about all these political situations, and we know that our scientists have actually warned that we are expecting a third wave around June, maybe starting in May, June, July, so depending on and how many people are catching it again. So it's the right thing to do, and I think it should be stressed. And I think it also sends the message to ordinary people to say, perhaps if you are told that you have to obey regulations to save yourselves, so you should do that. I wonder what sort of impact it will have in the next appearance if the current regulations are still in place.
Yeah, look, Mzoa, the pain of the pandemic is all too real, isn't it? We've been experiencing that over the past year. Currently, there are over 46,000 active cases here in South Africa. By no means, although we have this vaccine, the first 80,000 doses in the country, by no means that the pandemic is gone. So important point indeed. I'm sorry, we've got a tweet. Living down, I'm going to come back to you shortly, but I just want to put up this tweet to read. It's directed at you, Mzwa. It's from Pat, and it says, Mzondile, as you analyze, taking into consideration the support for Magashule, you must know that those are not the only ANC voice. Those of us who believe SG has a case to answer are respecting genuine processes. Those must await surprise at NGC. Your take with regards to this tweet from Pat, Mzwa?
Well, there is something, Levi, that said earlier to say the ANC is split down the middle. So that basically confirms that yes, those that you are seeing are not the only people that perhaps support the SG. There are those who are vociferously opposed. In fact, in that very province, you remember that last time Magashule appeared, so you had two groupings. And those that are opposed to him held a press briefing yesterday to say they will support the regulations, so they will not be bringing in people. So it basically confirms, Blaine, that the ANC is really divided on this matter. And of course, that's why even when we talk about the NGC, we are not certain or definite. We are basically saying it will give us a clearer picture as to where we are going, because we know there are those who are opposed to him, and then of course there are those who are supporting him. So that tweet sums it up for me.
Living though we know the paramount importance of respecting the regulations, the COVID-19 regulations. We're going to go to Samkele Maseko. You see him on your screen. But Levi, I mean, when you look at how this will play out politically in terms of Ace Magashule not addressing the crowds there, what's your take on that? Levindo, you still with us? All right, let's...
Magashule is one is day. Bringing in crowds, yes, bringing in crowds in buses and taxis, it's a psychological game. It's only to show that Ace Magashule has got a lot of support, and to show that he has got even though he's facing this difficult moment, he needs to just go there, leave the masses alone, but he knows that he has actually won the psychological game. But what is very important for me is that the ANC should be able to manage situations like this one. Because if they allow these kind of situations to get out of hand, then the ANC would find itself in a more serious situation where it cannot be able to address or lead its own people based on their expectations.
All right, Levindo, political analyst, we thank you very much indeed, sir, for your perspective. Be well. God bless to you and your family. Let's bring in now Samkele Maseko, man on the ground, following developments there with regards to this announcement that Magashule will no longer or will not be addressing the crowd. I pause when I say no longer because Samkele, you asked him the question whether he's going to be addressing the crowd, and he said he didn't give us an indication whether he was going to address the crowd or not. So I guess it's wrong for me to say no longer. But this development, how do you see this playing out?
Essentially what you see here playing is that Ace Magashule, essentially after seeing that they are indeed breaking lockdown regulations prohibiting political gatherings in the country, you look at how government through law enforcement agencies swiftly put barbed wire across all streets leading to the Bloemfontein Magistrate Court, preventing the truck which would effectively have Ace Magashule on that particular podium addressing those supporters from gathering near the Magistrate Court place that government wants to strictly enforce that no political gathering must take place. When we posed the question to Ace Magashule, he simply said that he will abide by the disaster management regulations placed by government of no political gatherings, and he will not be going to any super spreader, and he will not be speaking at any of these particular events. He did not give a clear distinctive answer or yes or no on that particular aspect. He just said that he won't break those regulations. We did pose the question also to Pule Mabe, who said that and members of the ANC and supporters came on their individual capacity here, but essentially what happened is that Ace Magashule is also on the back foot, placed in a corner within the African National Congress politically, is trying to avoid having more charges placed at his doorstep, particularly suing that he's now charged, and several other indictments have been added to the indictment sheet that he will be facing once this particular matter goes to trial in August, and does not want to further endanger his political ambitions within the African National Congress. You did see various ANC members chanting here in their thousands that Ace Magashule for president. I earlier on tweeted a particular video playing of Ace Magashule showing himself outside of the sunroof of a particular vehicle, a German machine that was driving across the streets of Bloemfontein and parading himself to the magnitudes of the masses that had gathered here pretty much like a king, which tells you that those supporters are adoring Ace Magashule, but COVID-19 regulations, even in that particular parade, were not being observed, and there was no social distancing, which tells you of the magnitude of how the coronavirus could spread in its magnitudes in these particular political party gatherings.
So we know that this matter has now been transferred to the Free State High Court. The next date is the 11th of August for pre-trial proceedings. So what next? We do expect that the ANC Secretary General, we hope that he will talk to us. Abongile Dumak gave us an indication earlier on. But from where you standing, Samkele, is that it for the day?
What we do know is that there may be a press conference that may be organized by the various leaders of the National Executive Committee who are gathered here. I do know that currently they are in a briefing session with the Secretary General of the African National Congress. That would be the likes of the Women's League President Bathabile Dlamini, Dakota Lekwete, Lindy Wenchalinchali, the Acting Provincial Secretary of Mpumalanga. I do know that Andile Lungisa from the Eastern Cape, the former MMC of Infrastructure in the Nelson Mandela Bay Metro and former regional chairperson of that particular region, he's also here. And he's also asking and pleading with ANC members here to go and support former President Jacob Zuma next week on the 23rd of February when he goes to the Pietermaritzburg High Court for his own trial of fraud, corruption and money laundering relating to the arms deal. So we may hear from Ace Magashule later on if that press briefing is convened by the likes of Andile Lungisa, the likes of Supra Muhamapelo, the former provincial chairperson of the Northwest Province Bokoni Buphirima, and the likes of Mzwandile Masina, Mabena, the Ekurhuleni regional chairperson, who are all here, and the ANC spokesperson Pulemabe, who many people are asking if Pulemabe is now the personal spokesperson of Elias Tshobela Magashule.
Mzondile, you heard Samkele talking about those that have turned out to support the ANC Secretary General Ace Magashule. In terms of the optics and the message that conveys to the greater public, what's your take on that? What's your read on that?
Well, the message really is simple and clear, plain. The message is that as much as Ace Magashule is facing the court proceedings, but he will not go down without a fight. In fact, if need be, he will have to put a very strong political campaign or fight together with those who support him to reclaim to reclaim, well, the ANC. In fact, in his own words, remember in Pietermaritzburg, a few months after the new president had been elected, when he said, "Don't worry, comrades, it's only for a few years, only 5 years." So when you look at the optics of what is happening, you look at the NGC, you think of Polokwane, so you can see that the stage is being set now for what is to happen, particularly 2022.
Mzondile Mbeche, we thank you very much indeed, sir, for your perspective. We'll also let go Samkele Maseko. They're live for us in the Free State. Thank you, gentlemen, for your take on this matter. We had Samkele, we had Palesa, we had Apumalela, we had Abungile, and a phalanx of video journalists present at court today, getting you all the angles with regards to this story, and we thank them very much indeed for their good work. One of our questions of the day we're asking you today is with regards to what transpired in court and the latest developments with regards to the case against Mr. Ace Magashule. What's your thoughts on the matter? At the agenda_SABC is where we're at. We've got, they're coming in thick and fast, I'm told. Let's put it up, see what